What's going on, everybody? It's Jay Myrex of ultrawest.com, and I'm here with a special guest today. I got Evin Groves. Evin Groves is a pioneer in the music tech space. He is the founder of StudioLinked VST, and he built an arsenal of virtual instruments filling the gap in the hip-hop and R&B production domain. He's also a former football player for Montana State University. And welcome to Ultra West channel, man. I appreciate you for coming on board and chopping it up with me.
Absolutely. No, I'm a big fan of yours, and thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir, man. Evin, man, I've known of you for quite some time. I've watched what you're doing in the music tech space. While I've been at Native Instruments, obviously we've had some interactions or whatnot, but I think a lot of people know you from StudioLinked, but I want to kind of take a step back. Like, what is your music production origin story? Like, how did you start, and when did you begin production?
Yeah, man, holy cow. Where it all began for me was just like many other people. I wanted to be a rapper. So I started out, writing raps and stuff like that in middle school. And then in high school, I kind of started dabbling around with the beats a little bit. But music has kind of always been in my blood. It's in my family. My Aunt Lonnie, who's my dad's oldest sister, she toured with Stevie Wonder through the 70s and 80s. She's actually the voice you hear her on You Are the Sunshine of My Life. That's her singing at the beginning of that song. And she would tell me stories of tour when she was part of the choir on Man in the Mirror with Michael Jackson. She's definitely done it in music. And for me, honestly, I was a big fan of music, but like you said, I was a football player. Sports were kind of my thing growing up, and music was the one thing that just humbled the heck out of me. You put a ball in my hand, I always was able to figure it out one way or another, if it was basketball, football, handball, anything. But you put a piano in front of me, I was humbled. And I think that competitor in me really was drawn to music because of that. It just kept humbling me, knocked me down. I got to figure it out. It's crazy today that I've made a living doing it.
Wow, that's incredible, man. So you do have a bit of a musical family, it sounds like, as well.
I do. My older brother, too, he was in a rap group, best friends with Nick Cannon growing up. I'm 6 years younger than those guys. So I kind of watched them do their thing, and I kind of found my way to follow suit.
That's dope. That's dope. So when you were starting off as a music producer, like what did you start with? Like, I know my channel is like kind of gear oriented, so we're always like, what do you use, or all that kind of stuff. Like, what did you begin with?
I started out with Sony Acid Pro.
Same here. Same here.
That was my very first software.
Yep.
And I think back then, like, all I was able to do was I had like these loops that I would find from like Guitar Center. And I was just kind of just mixing and matching loops, kind of where I kind of first started. And then I got into FL Studio early. I think it was like FL Studio 2. Mm-hmm. And I was hooked ever since, where like, oh man, I could actually, instead of just using a loop, I could put the kick and the snare here and start creating. And that's where I really learned about like sequencing and all that.
Nice. Yeah, I could definitely relate to that. I had similar start. I had the Sony Acid. I didn't have Pro. I had Acid Hip Hop, and then I had this program called Hammerhead. I don't know if you remember that from back. It basically was like a little drum machine that you can buy that could load samples, but it mainly had its own sound set. So I had that before I got FL. So
gotcha.
Yeah, man. That's what's up. Like, around what time? Like, what time frame we talking about here?
Man, this is probably 2004,
Mm-hmm.
2000. No, probably before then even. Yeah, I'm probably like 1999, 2000, somewhere in. I graduated high school in 2004, and I was definitely doing it before then. So
Wow.
Yeah, somewhere around then, 1999, in there.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It makes sense. Yeah, man. So, okay, so you got into production. What were some of the, you said, the production part of it was like humbling for you, as far as like getting in front of a piano, but like, what are some other challenges and experiences that you had as a music producer that made you kind of like, motivated to get like more competitive in this space?
Ooh, I think like just it's kind of I was a rapper first, right? So you have the battle rap, you want to be better than somebody. I think I kind of was taking that to the producer kind of side of me. So I remember getting on rockbattle.com and I wanted to and I would battle, my beats. I think I went by Main Event West at that time and I was on SoundClick trying to work my way, trying to grow up the charts on SoundClick and wanted to try to do the best I could to beat someone at rockbattle.com because you used to battle for money on there.
Yep.
I was trying to figure out a way to make a living doing that. And this is also kind of like, it's kind of crazy that time I'm in college. I have a stellar freshman year of football, but I tear my ACL, PCL, just tear up all my ligaments my sophomore season, and it actually forced me to retire early. So I had a medical retirement, and I had like an identity crisis. Was like, okay, all I've ever been was the football player, the athlete. And I always use this music thing on the side as a hobby. And now I don't have the football thing anymore. So that hobby of music now became my number one and wanted to kind of start getting serious about turning that into a business. And it was humbling from the beginning, just like any startup, trying to figure out, I didn't know e-commerce that well. This is back in a time when tech wasn't where it is today. So I had tons of challenges, struggles, hurdles, trying to figure out tech at this time. So yeah.
No, I can relate for sure because back in that era, there wasn't, I mean, obviously there was PayPal and stuff like that,
Yep.
but there just wasn't a lot of turnkey solutions for selling beats. And I remember the SoundClick specifically, like you would get contacted, but like if they wanted to buy a beat, you had to figure out how to actually create the transaction in the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was able to kind of, I was able to, because it probably was from my MySpace days. You remember you used to be able to pimp out your page. So I kind of started learning how to code a little bit, and I was able to figure out with SoundClick how to code in your PayPal buttons and start creating that transaction there, as well as with SoundClick. Like we all used to fight to be like the spotlight of the day.
Yep.
There was one advertisement on the main page, and if you did that, you had all the eyeballs. So I actually purchased it one time, and then I figured out there was a glitch in SoundClick. If you like tried to rebuy it at exactly midnight my time, I'm on Mountain Standard Time at this time at Montana State. It would allow me to continue to rebuy, or it would allow me to continue to be the spotlight producer of the day without having to pay for it over and over and over. So that glitch kind of helped me gain some exposure, and the rest is history.
Man, those were the days. There was a lot of like little SEO hacks back in those days, man.
Yeah, a glitch helped me.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you said you were on SoundClick. I think I would like to know from your perspective, when did the music production become like a viable profession for you? Like at what point did you realize, hey, this is a profession and I'm going to like go after like more professional avenues and opportunities in the space?
Oh man, during this time, I'm in college, and I remember I was making like probably $5,000 a month off of it, and at that time, that 5,000 felt like 50,000. So I was on scholarship check, so I was getting my football scholarship, school still paid for, and making that little $5,000 from my beats. It just continued. That like was the confirmation I needed that this could be something. And I just, once I was making that, I was like, you know what? Why not shoot for 10,000? Let's double it next month and more. But this also was a time when the market was not oversaturated, so there was tons of opportunity to kind of sell your beats directly to people that are looking for them. I think it was just a perfect timing for me. I was never the best producer, but I always was pretty good at adding vocal hooks onto my beats that separated me from other competition.
That makes sense. Could you name some artists that you've worked with over the years, or any companies or anything else you worked with?
Absolutely. When I was making beats,
yeah.
When I was making beats, worked with Meek Mill. I was actually one of my vocal hooks. I sang. It's called "Money Galore" on his Flamers 2 mixtape. So Meek Mill. I remember working with Beanie Siegel, Freeway. Worked with tons of artists. Rick Ross. To name a few. And then my biggest placement ever happened by accident, being honest. I got one of my beats was placed in the lottery ticket movie with Little Bow Wow, T-Pain, it was Little Bow Wow, Ice Cube, and a few others. What that was like, I remember getting, I still got it right here. Actually, it's funny. It's my first check for $15,000.
Nice.
And once I got that check from Warner Brothers, I was like, man, I want to do it again.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Started things.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. So, okay, you're seeing some success in music production. You're getting placements. You're working with like some of the top artists in hip hop and whatnot. How did you transition into being a sample library developer?
Man, so this is when things get interesting. So I was on SoundClick, having some success there, but I always wanted more. I was always like, what is my next deal? So I wanted to build my own SoundClick. And I went on that venture. So StudioLinked, the name where it comes from, it was actually a music community at first. So I built it. It was like this kind of Facebook / BeatStars before BeatStars. It was like a place where music producers, creatives, designers could all come together. And I had this chat room that was innovative, and you can live stream. This is back in 2009, 2010. And that was where I kind of first started. Now I got humbled and realized that, man, it's a lot harder to run a SoundClick social network kind of thing back in 2009.
Yeah.
So the technology, the website kept going down. And to save that website, I created a super basic VST plugin and just gave it out there for free as like, hey, thank you so much. This is not the best plugin. I'm just giving it to you as a thank you for being a part of this music community. Sorry for all the website always going down, but thank you for hanging in there. Here is this plugin. And where the sounds came from, I was never the best producer, like I said, but I probably wasn't the best producer because I was spending so much of my time always trying to craft and create my own sounds, dabbling around with oscillators. I came from the generation trying to sound like Timberland and Pharrell. Everybody had their own unique sound, and I wanted to create my own unique sound, so I would build my own sounds.
Wow. So you jumped right into being a VST creator.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I did not. My very first one was a VST, and then I had my little streak of creating contact libraries and Reason refills too. So during that time I was trying to reach an audience of every producer. So back then, Reason did not support VST, so I had to create a Reason Refill version of the same exact sounds and product that I was creating a VST and contact library of.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that. And I mean, that's a pretty huge transition from being like a producer to like now a software developer. You're making virtual instruments. Did you have any like? I think you mentioned that you didn't have a lot of tech background, but how did you get like? How did you learn about creating VSTs?
Man, I nerded out on YouTube and tried to get as much resources as I possibly could. There wasn't a lot out there at the time.
Yeah.
So I would just take a little bit here. I was jumping into forums, every forum you could think of, to try to get a little nugget here, a little nugget there, to create a really basic VST. Now, these first VSTs that I created looked horrible because I had no design background, and I'm trying to create this UX, barely dabbling around Photoshop and others. So yeah, it didn't look good, but it got the job done. And I was giving it out for free. So I didn't have any expectation that it's going to do some crazy numbers. I also just kind of was a student of VSTs. Like I said, I didn't have this like super hardware background of coming from all these crazy synthesizers. I kind of started in the box. So I stayed in the box. I was that kid that bought every VST that would come out at Guitar Center. So I kind of was just trying to do the best I could to replicate and copy a little bit of what I was seeing and stuff that I would use. But what separated my plugins out of the gate was I would use terminology that we say like in the hip hop culture. So I would have, instead of glide, I would add a swag knob. So like you turn it and it's going to add some kind of swaggerish kind of movement to the sound. I wasn't the best sampler, being honest, and I still figuring that stuff out. So my sounds actually sounded really like had some artifacts still in there. They had a little dirt, but it actually worked for hip hop, right? That's what we're looking for, is not that super precise, clean sound that's going to be in a film score. We want that little bit of grunge and dirtiness on keys and stuff like that. And I think that kind of helped me.
All right, not so fast. I know what you're thinking. Evin was dropping a lot of game, all right? He was really laying it out there. But listen, before you go out there and get yourself in trouble by taking your favorite presets from Omnisphere or Keyscape and then putting RC20 on top of it and calling it your own sound library, do you really know the fundamentals for sound design? Do you really know the proper methods to capture your sounds and implement them into a sampler for a professional sound product? Well, if you don't, I got the perfect solution for you. I released an ebook called The Sound Mind, where I talk about all of the strategies that I've used over the past 20 years as a professional sound designer, creating some of the top selling instruments and sample libraries in the game. I've trained some of the top sound designers out here. We're talking people like Snipe Young, Divided Souls. I've worked with some of the best, and I've helped hundreds of sound designers to achieve their goals within this music domain. So if you're interested in following the path of people like Evin and myself and becoming a sound designer, I highly recommend that you check out my ebook, The Sound Mind. In chapters 6, 7, and 8, we talk specifically about a lot of the stuff that Evin is talking about that made him successful. These are the things that made me successful as a sound designer as well. So I'm gonna drop a link in the video description. Go get The Sound Mind. Don't get yourself in trouble out here, because there's a big difference between just releasing some samples and hoping for the best and actually doing it the right way, where you don't get yourself in trouble and you can build a sustainable career as a sound designer. All right, so check the link in the video description and enjoy the rest of this interview. That's awesome, man. So yeah, YouTube University helped a little bit, it sounds like.
It was just the internet universe.
Oh, I got you.
I was using YouTube, but there wasn't tons of videos at this time.
Right.
I had to go to forums and chat rooms.
There we go.
This back in the chat room days
Yes.
and stuff. I went everywhere online to try to get a little gem here, a little nugget there to try to figure this thing out. And it wasn't very good, but it was good enough to load up inside of FL Studio. Looked horrible, but I was giving it away for free. So, yeah.
Awesome. So you gave away the free VST, and I'm sure you were looking at some analytics or something, seeing how many people downloaded it, and maybe some ideas came to mind here. But at what point did you decide, okay, I might be on to something. Let's turn this into like a VST business.
Okay, check this out. So I'm giving away that free plugin, and I think I had about 300 members that were part of that music community. I'm giving that away, and it was honestly their feedback. I had no way to track analytics at this time. I wasn't hip on to Google Analytics at this time. I was just getting feedback from them, and they're like, hey, like, this is an awesome free VST. I'm actually using a couple of these sounds in my beats right now. I would pay like $10 for it.
Wow. And
then some of them were like, hey, I'll pay $25 for it. And so that was the light bulb right there. It was like, that was the confirmation. I was like, shoot, I'm over here spending all of my money and everything I have into this struggling music community, where I got people who are willing to pay me $25 for this plugin that I gave away for free that took me 2 or 3 days to build. I should start doing that. So that's what I did.
And yeah, wow. So it was just really listening to what the audience wanted in the end. And
oh yeah, no man. And that StudioLinked.com, it went from that music community to a VST company selling 1 or 2 VSTs like within a matter of weeks. Everybody was like, hey, what happened to the music community? And it was a VST company at that point.
Wow. Would you care to give a little bit of insight on, like, it seemed like you had like a bit of a strategy on like what types of sounds and, what types of things you were going for? Like, can you share some insights on like your thinking around like how to give yourself some market differentiation?
Okay. It was easy at this time, or easier. There was a lack of hip hop inspired sounds at this time, right? This is back in 2009, 2010. There was probably 1 or 2 hip hop like go-to VSTs. Everything at this time was dance, and you could find all that electro, techno anywhere. But that's probably why I created that, or why it grew into what it was. I was looking for a certain type of sound that I could not find anywhere else. And there was an audience of people just like me out there that was looking for more hip hop inspired sounds. So it kind of was, there was just like any other business, there was the demand was there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I can relate, because back in that era, just as you said, everything was very much dance and, electronic music,
which is awesome. It's awesome. It just was not me.
Yep.
I was that kid I grew up in San Diego, California. I wanted West Coast. I wanted that G-Funk. I wanted to sound like DJ Battlecat, who was that was my Dr. Dre.
Same here.
I wanted to sound like Cat, man. And so yeah. I was looking for those kind of sounds, and I just could not find them anywhere.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, you went out and kind of gave the community something that wasn't there, and I think they responded by supporting you in the end. So,
absolutely.
What were some of the highlights as within the scope of the StudioLinked instrument libraries and whatnot? What were some of the highlights or some of the high points you could talk about?
Okay, man, there's many there. In 2016, I had my first idea to partner up with celebrity music producers and bring their sounds into a plug-in version. So my first one was with Mr. Collie Park. So I reached out to Michael. Michael Cox is his name, and locked in that deal. So we came out with a plugin called Basics by Mr. Collie Park, and then I ended up following that up with Scott Storch, Zaytoven. Who else did we do? Beats by the Pound. And a couple others, but that kind of where that came from was I remember I put myself in the producer's shoes. I remember when I was first making beats, man, I was like, I would do anything to get Scott Storch's drum kits. I'd do anything to get Zaytoven's 808 or that chant that he uses all the time. So that's all I was trying to do was to go to them and then partner up with them and bring their sounds to you, the beat makers.
Of course, yeah. And I mean, yeah, there weren't a lot of companies doing that at that time. Even I think I can recall a few. Obviously, one that comes to mind is Open Labs. I think you had an Open Labs before as well, right?
Oh, yeah, I had the Miko, man.
Yeah. So
Timberland edition too.
exactly. So that had some Timberland sounds in it. That was a partnership. But then, other than that, wasn't a lot. I mean, we started to try to get into that while I was at Native Instruments as well. But I think they never were the right company to like really double down completely because they're still like a German electronic music company in the end. So I think they focus more on that. And I was always kind of like, man, Evin is over there like really getting it in with the stuff that I know we need to be doing right now. So I was always like, man, he's killing it right now. But yeah, I was really happy to see that someone was really actively going after the producers that inspired us as producers in the end to do what we do in this hip hop and R&B space.
Exactly.
So StudioLinked sounds like it was transformational for you.
It was. Mm-hmm.
StudioLinked then, I guess, changed hands at some point. Am I correct in saying that?
You are correct.
Okay, so tell me about that transition. It changed hands. What happened, and where is it now? So
it didn't fully change hands. It's kind of complicated. It was in 2022. I had a single asset acquisition by InMusic. So yes, that portion. But here's the deal. A lot of the sounds that were in a lot of those products also went with InMusic. So there was a time period, and I can give you a little. I'm gonna try to condense that story really quick. In 2021 of November, I got approached by Beat Club about purchasing StudioLinked as a whole, the whole entire company. And it's funny that you mentioned Open Labs because Cliff Mountain was on the board. He's a CEO. He was the CEO of Open Labs. And I met him through Gary Martella, who's manager of Timberland, because Timberland had a Open Labs agreement. I wanted to create a Timberland VST back in 2018 to follow up my Scott Storch one. I was like, I gotta be the first to create this Timberland VST at StudioLinked. And we were super close in the 11th hour. That deal fell apart. Anyways, that connection though, that relationship with Gary Martella, Cliff Mountain, who ended up going on the board of Beat Club, was like, hey, we're about to roll out this platform of Beat Club. Let's acquire Evin and all the StudioLinked stuff as plugins. But that deal fell apart in the 11th hour. But at that point, I was interested in getting acquired. So I reached out to Andy Mack. I also, one of our buddies, Brent of Divided Souls, 12-Bit Soul, and he also knew Andy Mack from selling their sample packs with the Kai. So we both hit Andy Mack, and Andy connected me with the CTO there, Pete, and the rest was history. I was able to sell a single asset. That it was my cloud-based plugin that I created called Studio by StudioLinked, and that was the plugin that got acquired. So it was a single asset. It wasn't my entire StudioLinked, but it felt like to me, and it still does, like my entire company, because that was my flagship product.
Wow. Wow. So, your cloud-based product gets acquired.
Correct.
And then, as far as like your relationship with InMusic, how does that change then? Like, yeah.
Yeah, in that time, this is July of 2022 when we actually closed that deal. So we went about 6 months of negotiation, due diligence. We get to the final deal, closed it. And now part of that transaction was that cloud-based plugin. They own all the intellectual property, everything around it, and also me. So I went on and I was working with InMusic and part of the Akai team for 2 years, from July of 2022 through May of 2024.
Okay, so we have an Aqua hire here now. So okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and that makes sense. I've definitely seen a lot of that and experienced that. How was your experience as an Aqua hire? Because I know it changes a lot of the dynamics of how you work. So love to hear your story here.
There's a lot here because it also was my very first time having a job working for somebody other than myself. I've been self-employed right out of college. I built this stuff. So I never had a job before, corporate. I've never been anything corporate ever before. So there was a lot of firsts. There was a lot of learning. I also have only been a solo entrepreneur. So any success, also any failures, always fell on my shoulders. I wasn't used to having to ask for permission to, like, man, I just want to go send this customer the file that they wanted. Like, I had to start asking for permission. Also work as a team, there was some cons, but also a lot of pros. I actually learned a lot about myself and how to work with others. It was honestly over there at Akai, InMusic, the whole team, they have an umbrella of about 20 different brands under InMusic. And all of those teams, honestly, I had an amazing experience working with. There's some of the brightest minds. What I did also learn, though, is there's not a lot of minds that think hip hop, though. There's a lot of business people over there. It's kind of like you go to Warner Music and Atlantic Records. There's a lot of people who know business, but they might not know about the creation process of making hip hop music and others. I definitely felt that over there in music. There's a lot of brilliant, some of the smartest people I've ever experienced were over there. But they kind of were out of touch with hip hop, the culture, and what its audience wanted at times.
Got you. No, definitely. That's my experience as well as a product manager. Like you're dealing with a lot of people that very much understand business and they have good insights and they have a lot of interesting strategies that they want to implement that make a lot of sense. But I think, oftentimes it's, the difference is because you're coming from the hip hop culture, you just have a different perspective. And I think that's an interesting thing to have to share with the audience that doesn't necessarily understand some of the nuances within the culture. What did you, so as a product manager, like what were you mainly working on over that 2 year period?
I was overseeing, my main role there was to oversee my own product that they acquired. So, right, I have the keys to a lot of the things. Like part of why I came over there was to help have a smooth transition. That's getting all of the cloud content and everything in music's control and hands. That's adding new sound content, rolling that out, continuing that to drive that product was my job and role. That was my main role there. But with that, I'm also talking and communicating with some of the other teams over there at Newmark and BFD. There was other teams and also the NPC team. That was kind of always the goal, was to get that cloud-based plugin integrated in the future and try to do the best I could as being like the hip hop guy coming into Akai to help them would understand the audience a little bit more.
Got you. During your tenure as a product manager there, what would you say were the highlights of that experience?
I said a couple of them was honestly some of the relationships that I built there. I miss some of that. Like I would wake up and they're 10 hours ahead. A lot of the team that I was communicating with, they're in London. So when I'm waking up, and my morning was their evening.
Yep.
I'm waking up to tons of emails and stuff that happened while I was asleep the last 10 hours, 8 hours or whatever it is.
Yep.
So I definitely miss some of those relationships and conversations that I would have with, like I said, these guys that are some of the best in the game. Those were some of the highlights. I learned a ton. Justin, I came into this, I said I never had a job before. So honestly, I went in there and was just trying to be a sponge and soak up everything. There was so many things I learned from being a solo entrepreneur that I was doing correct. Also, things that I learned I was doing totally incorrect over there, because they have their own marketing team. They have tons of resources that I never had as a solo entrepreneur. So I definitely was just trying to learn as much as I possibly could while I was there. And that was a highlight in itself.
That's amazing. So you learned a lot from having more exposure to like a larger corporation and kind of seeing like the ins and outs of their business, which is probably helpful for, what you're going to do in the future as well.
Correct.
I don't want to make it a negative kind of conversation, but are there any lowlights that you experience if you can talk about it?
I think some of those just frustrations that I would have, like, hey, a hip hop music producer needs X, Y, and Z features. We need these things. And I felt at times those weren't priorities for them. It was about, hey, let's hurry up, roll it out. Let's see how I want it to make as much money as possible, was more of the priority than what I was after. Was I'm a hip hop producer at my core first. So I need those things for a hip hop producer addressed in this product and other products, is what I was trying to get while I was there. And I felt a little bit of pushback at times on some of those things. We'll find out in the future, because some of those things that they probably pushed back on me, maybe they were right. Like, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. That was just some of the pushback there on things that I wanted to see for the culture and our audience. I got a little bit of pushback on.
No, I can completely relate to that, because that's kind of what I experienced at Native as well. Obviously, the market is bigger than hip hop, and we kind of have to have some balance in the approach. But I also kind of felt like in some ways, the data says that hip hop still has the greatest market share of music consumption. So I would expect that there was a little bit more prioritization on the needs of the hip hop culture, since it is the dominant market in music. So, that was always a challenge for me as well. So I can completely relate, but who knows? Maybe, maybe those decisions were the right decisions in the end, as you said. So we'll see. But I can relate to you for sure. Why did you end up leaving InMusic?
So I was let go. Honestly, it was at a time where we were struggling to get this product rolled out. So that was just a executive call from above to, like, hey, we need to halt this product right now. And I'm the product manager of that team. We were running into multiple roadblocks of getting it signed off. It would get signed off through QA testing. Okay, it's ready to go. And then some stakeholders would say, you know what? Nope, it's not a high quality yet. So we just kept running into that. And I think the higher ups had enough of that and were like, hey, we need to let go this product at this time. Let's halt it and bring in and prioritize other products. And since I was the head of that part, I was dismissed. My obligations were no more at that time. They're just like, Evin, we no longer need your services.
Wow.
So that was my conversation, but it was okay. Like that's news that would frustrate tons of people, and I was a little disappointed with, like I said, not being able to conversate with some of these people who I built a relationship with. Right, I'm talking to them every single day, all day for 2 years, and now boom, just like that. Now I no longer have those conversations with those people. That part I miss, but I also, the optimistic side of me was like, okay, now I have more free time to prioritize other projects that I've been kind of neglecting.
Okay, so yeah, it wasn't a voluntary leave, but it was more so just some market conditions and maybe some other internal business decisions led to this. So,
Yes.
but you said that it opened up some time for you to work on some things you were neglecting. So, care to share like what you're focused on today, what you're working on today?
Absolutely. So, right, like the next month after I was let go, I got like kind of remotivated about my VST plugin generator that I created called Romplur. I soft launched it in July of 2022. So, like right after I got acquired, I was launching Romplur just super soft, which was probably a mistake because I had so much going on my plate, and I had no idea how much more was going to get thrown onto my plate when I started working at Akai. So I soft launched it. It had tons of bugs and customers that I pissed off because I'm not replying back to emails. It wasn't working. The export was going through all kind of stuff. So I honestly, I was able to refocus and reprioritize that project, and then to get official launch of that product in November, I partnered up with Hitboy. I wanted to kind of have a face and a name that was recognizable, had tons of credibility. So that partnership came about, and I'm re-motivated again to help Romplur get out there to the masses, hopefully.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this: what made you develop a product like Romplur?
Okay, now this is super, super good. During my time, my last 13 years with StudioLinked, in order to make these VSTs, I needed a graphic designer and I also needed a coder that knew C++. I'm just the visionary guy. I know very basic stuff to code a VST. So I relied on graphic designers and coders. I wanted to make a software that kind of empowered the creatives to create their own creations and their own plugins without needing a graphic designer and a coder. There was so many times that I had plugins coded by a developer, and then something happened with that developer, and now I can't update the product. So now all the customers are mad. I'm getting tons of emails. They're mad that their plugin doesn't work on the latest Mac version, and they're mad at me because I'm the company owner, but I can't get a hold of this developer. So I was like, you know what? I want to empower the creatives where they don't have to rely on a graphic designer or a developer. They can do it all themselves. And that's what Romplur does.
That's awesome. The problem that you just stated happens to the best of the companies. I've seen that at the biggest companies. They have external developers that do the code for their flagship synthesizer, and then the relationship gets strained or something else happens and they can no longer update the stuff, and they end up removing it from their library completely because they can't service it anymore. So this whole Romplur thing sounds like a game changer in the sense that it's empowering everybody to have a little bit more autonomy and the ability to continue to service their product over time.
Absolutely.
Man, that's amazing.
Honestly, and also I I saw a lot of potential, and I kind of saw what FL Studio and others are doing. This is kind of, we're like living in the times of like customization where you can customize the look and the workflow. So I thought a Romplur or this kind of idea was perfect timing for people to be able to add. You know what? Yeah, I have Omnisphere. I got whatever plugins, Nexus, but I want to create my own with my own logo and have my own style and knobs on it to kind of spark my creativity to make my next beat. That's what I'm looking to try to do, is to give them that customization.
No, you're definitely on point there. And this is what I call a disruptive product. So I'd imagine there's some people that don't like that you're doing this.
Oh yeah, I think the giants, some of the companies that we worked for, are not happy today, and others that kind of like, honestly, the plugin creation space has always kind of been, there's like a key to get inside of it, and only a few knew how to break that lock. So I'm kind of just opening up the vault to the masses.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm interested to see who actually gets inspired to become a plugin developer now that there's tools like this available.
Absolutely.
Well, Evan, man, I appreciate your time. Is there anything else you want to talk to my audience about, man? Like, love to hear any other thoughts or anything else that you want to share.
No, man, I honestly, it's been fun just going down memory lane. Some of this stuff that we spoke about today, I haven't revisited. So it's kind of nice to go back and look at this journey, because it feels like it's flown right by, but it's been 13 years of grind, day in, day out, trying to figure out this stuff, and with very little resources, a small team. It's been incredible that I'm on your radar and was on the radar of a big company like Native Instruments. And it's crazy to even say in a sentence that I got acquired by InMusic and Akai, and that was always just a dream when I'm making beats in my bedroom on FL Studio. I never could have thought that this would be my reality, and it's here. So it's crazy.
Man, I think great work doesn't go unnoticed, man. So it's like, it's hard not to notice someone doing something at the level that you were doing it, and also with the intentionality that you had with your products. We could tell, like, yes, this guy understands the market and is going after exactly what he knows is going to penetrate that market. And for me, looking at, I do have a bit of a tech background, so looking at what you accomplished, I'm just, I definitely, I have a high respect for what you've been able to accomplish over the years, man. So, much respect to you. And I, definitely, if there's anything else I can do to support you in your future endeavors, man, please feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And to leave your audience, if I could, to answer your question, if I could leave them with something, I do hope that they could take away anything from my journey as inspiration to go, like, if I took it here, you guys go take it further. I'm excited to see what's next and who is the next guy to go take this culture a little bit further in sound design. We could use a lot more people who look like us, feel and think like us as a whole in this space. So I hope that I could be somewhat of inspiration and a resource for the next guy that can take it to the moon.
There it is, man. Much respect, much appreciate your time, man. We definitely got to do more of this in the future. We got to figure out some ways to continue to connect, man. But I appreciate your time, Evan.
Excited. Thank you.